What's good, Hainu? This is a quick video on how I prepared for matching. Specifically, how I rid myself from shadows and shame so I felt confident to receive the blessing, to get matched when I did. The primary thing that I did that changed everything for me, it was kind of a pivotal paradigm shift in my own growth, was doing a full, transparent, absolute confession life story to my parents. And I went to a room and I just started writing everything about my life, not just what I did, not the mistakes I made, but how I felt at the time. I just let it all out. All the things I was holding on to that were points of shame and remorse and just feeling guilt about, like a dark cloud that was hovering over my head for many years. I just let it all out onto paper. I wrote a journal about 10 pages long to my parents. At the time, I was at a workshop. I was kind of away from home. And I decided to send them my reflection or my confession, essentially, because I didn't want to see them or I didn't want to say it to them directly, because at the time it was easier for me just to send it off and just get rid of it. And so I sent it. And the feeling I had after I put the envelope inside the mailbox was, you guessed it, liberation, freedom, feeling light, feeling like I could fly. I felt like I could leave that room floating a little bit. And why was this a pivotal time for my matching and marriage preparation? It's because it was the first time that I felt I was living a high noon life. It was the first time that I felt like I was liberated from shadows and free. Now, you might be asking, how did my parents respond? The thing is, guys, I wrote that letter not because I wanted my parents to respond a certain way. Of course I was afraid that they were going to respond unpleasantly, negatively. Of course I was afraid of that. Of course I was afraid of their judgment, or their upset. But here's the thing, it didn't matter to me. And not because I don't care what they think. I actually care a lot about what they think. It didn't matter to me because the reason I was writing the letter was not for them. It was for me. It was for me to liberate myself. It was for my life. It was for my future blessing. It was for my connection with God so I could break through those blockages and experience God fully. And so I did it. In the face of fear. In the face of uncertainty, judgment. There's a word for that. It's called courage. And I recognized that at the time when I was a young man. It's like, this is what courage feels like. It's scary, but I need to do it. And that's exactly why I need to do it, because especially because it's scary. And so I wrote that letter. I wrote all about my porn masturbation habit, all my experiences there. And I let it all go. Was it the end of my porn and masturbation? Actually, no, it wasn't. But what it did for me was it allowed me to remove myself from the shame cycle, which is fundamentally what was keeping me inside the behavior of porn and masturbation in particular. The feeling of like, oh, I already made a mistake, so I might as well. I'm already in a ditch, I might as well. It's kind of the feeling of binge eating food, junk food, after you've tried to diet or do a no sweets condition. As soon as you eat a bit of popcorn, you're just like, I might as well eat the whole box of popcorn now. That kind of feeling. I might as well. I'm already a piece of garbage. I might as well. I'm already unworthy. I might as well. And so I was able to remove the shame from the behavior and essentially remove myself from that death cycle. And by doing so, I allowed for more light in my life. I allowed for more healing. And that experience was pivotal for me because it allowed me to understand what it feels like to receive grace. Maybe for the first time in my life, if I'm honest. To really identify and pinpoint a moment in my time, in my life, that was like, this is what grace feels like. This is what God's unconditional love feels like. Is despite my mistakes, despite my actions, I'm still here, I'm still alive, I'm still loved, I'm still worthy. And that is what gave me the confidence to pursue the matching. Even though I knew I had stuff to work through, even though there was a reason I was watching porn and masturbating in the first place that wasn't being addressed, I was like, you know what? Despite all that, I'm willing to grow. I'm willing to work through this. And so the moment that I decided I was willing was the moment I decided I was ready for the matching. Because people often ask me now, today, how do I know I'm ready? And I always give the same answer. You know you're ready when you're willing. Willing to do what? Willing to, no matter what, take responsibility, grow, take ownership, and ultimately progress through whatever the struggles are and grow as a result. And, my friends, resemble the heart of God, the love of God, the unconditional grace of God to each other as a couple, and to ultimately, eventually, to my children. And I was willing to do that no matter what. No matter what, I was willing to grow. And so when I knew that, I was like, I can do this. I want to get blessed. I want to get matched. It wasn't like I should get matched, or it's probably a good idea to get matched. It's like, I want to get matched and blessed. I want to. It was a deep, primal, divine desire I had. I want to be in a relationship. I want to have a blessed family. I want to have kids. I want to raise a family. And whatever struggles I know will come with that, I want to experience that too. Let that be part of it. And boy, oh boy, has it been a struggle. But I never, ever, ever, ever regret it, because I am the man I am now. I have the family I have now. I have the relationship with Hitoe, my wife, I have now, with my kids, Kojin, Ira, and Iona, that I adore and cherish today. And so that was by far the greatest preparation I did, was just to be open and honest and vulnerable, and just to let all the shadows out. Just let them all out. As Mother talks about, to be pure water. The beautiful thing about pure water is that water can always be purified. It can be filtered. It can be cleansed. No matter how dirty, no matter how disgusting we think it is, or unpleasant it might taste, look, smell, or feel, it can be purified. And the purification process is actually a lot simpler and easier and painless than we perceive it to be. It always is. The cleansing process of that pure water can happen in as little as one conversation, or one letter away, as it was for me. One conversation. Being seen, being heard by the right person in the right setting could take 5 minutes, could take 10 minutes, an hour. It doesn't take years of your life. And so if you are in a situation where you are spending years of your life feeling stuck, feeling isolated, feeling like a degenerate loser because of your porn addiction or masturbation habit, you don't have to sit on it for that long. The practicing of the high noon virtues that we're talking about in our programs and our content actually just happens in one conversation. That's actually a blueprint about how to have a courageous conversation and be honest, receive grace and accountability, and in the end have integrity. Being a person of integrity. That's what it's about. And if you do that on a consistent basis, there is nothing that you cannot overcome. There's nothing you can't do. And you can, regardless of where you are right now, prepare for matching in a healthy, productive way and find your spouse. So that is the opportunity that's here for you guys. You can do it. You 1000% can do it. And you just have to take the action. Take the courageous, bold step and go for it. So the next best thing I did after I did the confession was to have consistent conversations with my parents, with kind of wiser older brother figures in my life, to have consistent ways for me to be honest, because things come up in life. It's not like you're going to do a confession and your whole life is going to be smooth sailing from there on out. No, that's not how life works. There's new levels at every stage. There's new levels to the game. And when you're in a relationship, you'll experience new emotions. When you're in a matching process, you'll experience new challenges and struggles that ultimately will be your strengths and assets. When you are a parent, you'll experience new things. And it's actually an unreasonable expectation to think that you will never struggle in your life. So have the peace of mind right now, the mental liberation to know that there will be struggles. And along the way, you need people to guide you through those. You need relationships to guide you through those. And that's the single greatest thing that I did successfully and did well when I was preparing for matching and a blessing, was I had constant communication with my parents about what I was feeling, what I was experiencing. And they just did what they could to listen and to accept and to help guide me along the way. And that's what I needed. That's really what I needed. And so it looked just like having daily conversations in the evening about how I was feeling, what happened today. We did the condition together. Probably the best condition I've ever done was a 40-day condition where I just sat in front of their feet. They sat on the sofa and I just sat in front of them, and I read some words from your parents about the blessing, the value of the blessing. And then I just talked about like what it is that I read about. It wasn't just reading, it was reading a little bit, like a paragraph or maybe a page, and then discussing with them, how did I digest that content? What did I internalize about it? And then maybe they asked questions or we had a chance for some dialogue, but it helped me to feel connected with them, number one. It helped me set a spiritual condition for my blessing. And it helped me to digest the content of the value of the blessing in a way in relation with my parents and with God. So that's really what I did. It wasn't that simple. I didn't do a lot of crazy conditions, cold showers, bowing, or anything like that. I just went straight to the heart of the matter. I rid myself of the shadows. Here's the thing, guys. You're doing all these conditions and all these things that you think you need to do. There's only really a few things you need to do. They're the biggest constraints and roadblocks, the knots in your system that if you remove, you can grow to the man or woman that you are meant to be, born to be, designed by God to be, intended to be. And I believe that one of those greatest constraints is the shadows in your life. The shadows are like a giant hurricane that's sweeping through and destroying and uprooting this beautiful tree that you're growing into. And if you let it uproot you, you will never be able to really plant a firm foundation in the earth and grow to the tree and man and woman that you are meant to be, and to have those offsprings and children. Your shadows are like a giant hurricane or a giant axe that's coming down and chopping down this beautiful tree that's trying to grow. But if you just let it grow, if you remove the constraints, remove the shadows, and just let your tree grow, you will grow naturally. You will. You will fulfill the purpose of your life naturally. You will. But the constraints that are keeping you back, holding you back from developing into that man and woman are of your own doing. They're the own shadows, liabilities, and shame and remorse that you are keeping inside you. But ultimately, the answer to all that is already within you. It's already there. And so, like in my story and many, many hundreds of other stories in our high noon world, it's just experiencing a high noon life, a no shadows, pure water life, in as little as one conversation. And just having the courage to take that one step. It's that one thing that you know you need to do, that you're always constantly thinking, oh, I should do that. I should have that conversation. I should tell this thing to that person. I should share this, but you don't. That's the thing you need to do. Why? Because there's a reason you're thinking about it all the time. There's a reason that it's scary. There's a reason you're giving power and fear to it. It's because it's exactly what you need to do. Because if it wasn't important to you, you wouldn't think about it. You wouldn't give power to it. You wouldn't be afraid of it. But the reason you're afraid of it, taking that step, taking that action, is because it's exactly what you need to do. Lots of love from my heart to you guys. I'll see you in the next video.